Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, the group that produces this weekly news show we call We Talk News. Now, last week, the industry got shaken up by a last-minute amendment to the 2024 Farm Bill that the US House has now passed that has basically banned Delta 8 and the products derived from that type of cannabis commonly referred to as hemp. I talked with Kerry, Hinkle, the Director of Communication for the US Hemp Roundtable this week, about that development and the future of the hemp industry. It seems that at the very beginning, when I started this in 2018, they used the word hemp versus marijuana because it was a distinguishing tool to explain to people, oh, one gets you high and one is for industrial purposes. Well, human nature being human nature, Kerry, as you know, the cheaters are always ahead of the testers in sports. And the same thing happened here with hemp, that people figured out a way to decarboxylate the hemp and turn it into a intoxicating product that now has become called, I believe it is THCA. So my point, Kerry, is this used to be a lot simpler than it is right now. And the definition of hemp continues to evolve. Was it a surprise when Representative Miller decided to send that amendment through on, I think it was, late last week?
Yeah. And for additional context, I used to work in a CBD shop. I remember working in the shop when President Trump signed the Farm Bill into law in 2018. And that was when we just had, nasty oil that you put under your tongue. And, I'd tell my customers it's like medicine, if it's supposed to, it works good, if it tastes bad, that old things that parents might have said when you were taking cough syrup or something. So I've seen it now to where, I can eat a Rice Krispie treat with, 50 milligrams of THC in it and feel good. Right. And I bought that at the gas station down the street. Right. So I've seen this industry evolve in a long time in the 6+ years I've been in it. On the Mary Miller Amendment specifically, to kind of pull the curtains back on what we were doing at the Hemp Roundtable was we had heard rumors, we'd seen some draft text of a proposal to change the definition of hemp in the Farm Bill. So we started meeting with I believe there's 54 members of House Ag. We started meeting with as many of those staffs and members of Congress as we could. And the issue when you're meeting in trafficking and rumors is it's just that, it's rumors. And so, staffers would be like, well, if you see the language, let us know. We're not really sure how this would go. And a lot of the conversation, too, was pessimism around the Farm Bill in general. There's a lot of things that have nothing to do with hemp or cannabis that it provides, pessimism for that Farm Bill to pass in general. And then so we're meeting with these offices. We have a few suspects that we think they're going to introduce it. Give them that won't meet with us. It's like, okay, maybe they're going to be the offices but it really felt like a case of whack-a-mole where we got the rumor, we track down an office and they say, no, we're not the ones doing it. And we'll try somebody else, right? Politico would come out with a report. We would meet with that office. Okay, find somebody else. So, and then what happened was it was about 6:00 on a Wednesday night. I remember I was playing in my YMCA men's basketball league and we got the amendment, right? And what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to have the amendment filed 24 hours beforehand. But some offices told us that this wasn't going to be the case, and that's exactly what happened. It was 7 o'clock. We finally got the word that the amendment had been filed, passed, deadline. They're Congress; they can do what they want. So we had to respond quickly. So we got our email campaign out, got an emergency full membership meeting the next morning, flew to DC, was in the committee meetings, meeting with staffers. And the issue again was that we were trying to defeat an amendment that wasn't introduced yet. And by the time it was introduced, we had 16 hours to react. Now, we did swiftly. We got some really impressive numbers as a result of it. And I can kind of keep going down that process if you want. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty bad amendment.
Right. And Kerry, was the timing suspect right out of the gate? It was the Friday before Memorial Day. Is this another example of those that are trying to do whatever is possible to make it as difficult as possible for the hemp and cannabis sativa THC world to actually survive, let alone thrive? And I mean, is that what you think? Again, the timing, they knew exactly what they were doing, Kerry, didn't they?
Yeah. And to dive more into the weeds, if you will, of the political process, that's exactly what happened because the amendment passed on block. Means that it's a process used that the chairman dictates. we had met with GT Thompson multiple times. We had lunch with him the week before the meeting, and he had made some assurances to us that, and he's the chairman of House Ag, that something like this wouldn't happen. But having the en bloc package, en bloc is used for amendments that are deemed non-controversial, right? If you don't need to debate it, if there's not going to be a big stink about it, then let's just do it en bloc for efficiency. And that's what one of the members of Congress we met with 45 minutes before that vote was that we like en bloc, and she claimed it was because it's efficient. And it is efficient, but that Mary Miller amendment is the definition of controversial. And during the committee meeting, right, 3 Republicans spoke out against it: Jim Baird from Indiana, Eric Van Orden from Wisconsin, and none from Iowa. And they said, hey, this is, I really liked what Derek Van Orden said was maybe Congress didn't intend this in 2018, but there's businesses now in his district and throughout the country that are supporting their families. Consumers are buying the products. This is a thriving business. So I think his words were, Congress, we just need to eat it, right? Because this is happening now, and our organization pushes for regulations, 21 and over, and make them the right way, right? Ultimately, these products should be available to be sold at retail, and to the toothpaste out of the tube, all that expression is really relevant with this industry because it's thriving. Families are being supported by it, and consumers like the products. There's some regulations that could be happening, but have that really controversial amendment pass on voice vote when we were pretty sure we had the votes if it were to be brought up through the traditional amendment process where you get a yay or nay vote. We were confident that we had enough votes to kill the amendment. To have this political maneuvering with the chairman packaging it together in non-controversial amendment packages is just asinine, and it was really difficult for us to see.
And I go back to the Farm Bill of 2018, and there have been plenty of editorials and comments about the fact that those that were pushing forward on that bill to get it through, i.e. a certain, at that time, majority leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, I'm going to throw him right under the bus.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of Yergel. What can I tell you? That being said, he had no idea the Pandora's box that he was basically opening. And really, realistically, you can still make the case. This is the same plant. The 2018 Farm Bill actually legalized cannabis sativa, the plant. And that was my immediate reaction when I first read it. And I was like, how are they going to tell the difference between the one that does get you intoxicated and the one that doesn't? And how are they going to separate out? I mean, trust me, at the beginning of when I had my medical card in 2013, I knew what THC was. I kind of knew or had heard about CBD, but now we've got so many alphabets, different cannabinoids. They've discovered another, 50 other cannabinoids in the plant since that time alone. And yet we still have elected officials who are just not doing the background. Forget the interviews, forget the lunches, forget the talk. You have to do research. You have to read the information that is now out there about this plant and what those different cannabinoids do for humans. Oh, and by the way, every human is different. So the one thing that gets you high with X percentage of THC in it for you or me, Kerry, isn't going to be the same for everybody. You cannot, this is not a consistent plant. It's a live thing that can be manipulated genetically. So this is ridiculously challenging, I'm guessing, but it doesn't seem like anybody in our government really wants to take the time to do the research. That's as I go off on a rant, but that's how I.
Yeah. And I think, Hemp One has advanced cannabis research, tenfold in the last couple of years. Just the ability to research it, convert it, et cetera. Everything that's done has advanced cannabis science light years ahead than the regulated marijuana market has, just because of access and the ability to in a lab and play with it, honestly. But there's another point to that too, is the research of it. One thing that we struggle with as an advocacy organization is finding the delineation between intoxicating and non-intoxicating products.
Right.
We have a white paper that argues for 5 milligrams per serving. There are some research studies that are in it. It's not perfect, and we'll be the first to admit it. Some people claim 10, some people claim 2, right? And you can compare it to alcohol, where there's a universal BAC line that is pretty well established, and you've got road tests, et cetera. And a lot of that is not available to us right now in the cannabis industry. And this goes to when you're educating lawmakers and regulators on, what would be deemed appropriate for what type of person. At what limit should that be no longer available to be sold to 21 and over? So we see states choosing these numbers very arbitrarily and really out of a hat. So Florida has a bill right now that's at 5 milligrams per serving and 50 per package. Iowa just signed one that's 4 milligrams per serving, 10 per package. Connecticut just passed a really, really convoluted, complicated law where they draw carve outs for beverages at a different limit than tinctures, and different packaging requirements for them. They even had topicals in there at one point, and we had to educate them that you can't really get high indoor. People eat topicals to get high, so why are you putting a milligram limit on there? So even down to the per product category of it all. And another one that's really bad right now is California, and they're at 0.25 milligrams per serving and 1 milligram per package. It's a AB 2223. So kind of summarize it, that whack-a-mole I spoke about with congressional offices is also happening on a state level, where it's just every state is different. Everyone's chose a different labeling requirement, milligram restrictions, etc. Interstate commerce is much more complicated. And people that are running businesses just wake up one day and all of a sudden now the products they were selling yesterday are now deemed illegal because somebody picked a number out of the hat without really understanding the ramifications and implications from the restrictions they're putting on the products.
I mean, you have to be a botanist, you have to be a chemist, right? You really do. These are the smartest people I've ever met and interviewed over the last 30 years of a media career. Of course, I was in sports, but still, and no disrespect to the student athletes of the world, please. There are plenty of them out there. That being said, it is still amazing to me that what the government wants is a consistent product that you can create in a lab like every other drug that's out there. This is not a drug. This is a plant medicine. And that simple thought has not permeated into the brains of the people that are making the decisions on this. Let me backtrack. Let me take a deep breath and calm down a second here.
Take a little CBD, relax.
That's right. The CAOA bill that Senator Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker and Ron Wyden have now been talking about for a couple of years. I'm pretty sure they want to create one regulatory cannabis board that would be in charge of both the hemp side and the non-hemp side. Let's just leave it at that, right? Because I don't like to use the M word. I've actually got this great book, Cannabis versus Marijuana. Oh, you can't see it because I'm blurred, but I'm reading all about the differences in the words and the interpretation of the meaning of these words. People think marijuana and they think reefer madness. They're immediately jumping into that. And I'm sure you know the origin of that term, loosely translated in slang when the Mexicans brought it into the United States of America in 1920s, 10s, 15s, whatever. It was evil weed. And we're still treating it like an evil weed rather than learning about this weed and its amazing medicinal qualities that hundreds, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people claim anecdotally that it's changed their life or saved their life. And yet it's going to get you high. Oh, come on, people. Really? It's 2024. You know what I mean? We have to progress beyond this because this is such it's an important topic now because now you're getting billions and billions of dollars in revenue, billions of dollars in tax revenue, and nobody seems to understand it as far as the people that are making the decisions. So for someone who's at a roundtable about hemp, and again, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that you guys welcome the regulations. You'd like it to be an over 21 product, just like its cousin, if you will, right? Yeah. But where do we go from here? I mean, it's obvious that the industry is in an uproar right now. And, what are the next steps on this? And can the Senate just say, will you guys get rid of that definition of hemp? Because we're going to define it and it's going to be one regulatory board. Is there any chance at all of that happening?
Yeah, I think our best guess and best chance is to keep the definition of hemp the same rather than change it. Leave it up to this.
At least for a few years.
Yeah, right? Yeah. In the Farm Bill. Yeah.
Right.
Keep that definition the same. We have introduced multitudes of bills that would require the FDA to regulate CBD as a dietary supplement. Right after the Farm Bill passed in 2018, the FDA commissioner, hours after, said, out a statement about, we can't regulate these products. We don't have the ability to do it. It's just, they put out a statement hours after it was all legalized on purpose, right? Our general counsel, Jonathan Miller, has testified before House Oversight Committee We also helped there was also an oversight committee just a few months ago with the FDA commissioner now, Caliph, where they talked about it, and it's this pointing fingers where the FDA says we don't have the ability to regulate the products under the current dietary supplement restriction guidelines. We need Congress to do something. Congress is saying, FDA, we need you to do something. So there's just pointing fingers to where nothing gets done, which is that's just how government happens to work. So
it doesn't work. Kerry, it doesn't work. You've got think about this for a second. You've got the USAG, an agricultural group, right? You've got the FDA, Food and Drug. You've got the DEA, you've got the HSS involved with this. And of course, now you have the executive branch saying, will you guys get your crap together, please, and figure this out? Because no one has got the right formula yet. However, I put my faith in the Senate because I really like Chuck Schumer. I'll be honest with you. All right. Yeah. I think he's human, and God love humans, because we're not perfect beings. We can't get it right the first time out. We can't say that this is how it's going to be. This is what happened with the Farm Bill. All of a sudden, everybody understood. Wait a second. You mean you can actually use hemp and not get high? And I'll be honest with you, Kerry, I remember the first time, as a media guy, I get lots of free samples. People sent me a bottle of Delta 8. And I'll be honest, I had read about Delta 8, but I didn't know. I decided to take some, took a drive up to Maine, got out of the car, and I went, holy shit, I'm really high. I was shocked. Shocked. Okay.
Yeah. And working in my CBD shop at the same time, that same transition, especially in the middle of COVID, and doors are shut, we're delivery only, people are stuck inside, and at the same time our products shifted away from those gross CBD oils to the Delta 8 like products, and just seeing it real world, our website sales, this is what consumers wanted in 2018. This is the product that they needed. And I want to add another caveat to it too, is not all consumers are comfortable going into a dispensary. Somebody like my grandma might not want to go into that environment. And so, we have a company called CANN, that's in our membership group. They are strong on pushing the beverage side and using it as an alternative to alcohol, right? So, and being able to buy it at a local retail location, right? So there's an advantage too to having these low dose products that are available in multiple retail channels so that consumers of all types can consume them, enjoy them, and shift. I think there was just a report that more people are consuming cannabis than beer these days. So
that's a daily user. Let's make sure we understand that. It's not overall, it's not cumulative, okay?
Yeah.
It is daily user average kind of a thing. And that is a big deal. It really is another one of those. I remember the days when it was an essential product. Remember those days during the pandemic? That was a huge moment in this movement too, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember we were selling dog food, CBD dog food, and that was how we classified our business as being essential because we sold food. So, there was ways to make it through at the time to keep your doors open and keep your business operating. But I just think there's a need for regulation. Of course, there's a need for delineating between a product that you might rub on your arm for shoulder, for pain, and something you might take at night because you just want to, relax for a few hours. There's ways to delineate and differentiate it, and we're a long ways from figuring out the perfect solution. But we all know from the years of the war on drugs that banning these products is not the way to do it, and that's what the Mary Miller Amendment and passed out of House Agriculture is going to do, and that's what so many state legislatures are doing right now. Is instead of regulating, bringing the light out, allowing folks to buy the products and that they've been made safe, tested, etc. We don't need to go backwards. We need to go forward on this issue.
That's right. And I hope our elected officials understand that, Kerry. I mean, Lord knows that was one of the best conversations I've had with someone in a few years about this challenge for all sides. No one's saying, I know it, except for our elected officials who say, well, I know that being intoxicated is bad because I drink alcohol. And they're looking at it that way. They're trying to be comparable with the alcohol product. And the alcohol product is not even close. These were the two, think about this now. These are the two products that our elected officials back in the 1920s and 30s decided to ban. And I'm sure the history of the pulp industry and the people that were behind all this and the production of reefer madness and the placing of Harry Anslinger in the place of the Federal Narcotics Bureau, who, by the way, here's a factoid that I didn't know, and I thought I knew a lot because I was a history major and I studied a lot of this stuff as soon as I had access to the information. Did you know that Harry Anslinger married Andrew Mellon's niece?
No, I didn't realize that family connection.
Think about 1930. Harry Truman
Yeah.
put him in at 1930 as the Federal Narcotics Bureau. He was his niece-in-law, whatever you want to call it, right? Well,
Yeah.
actually, not Harry Truman's, but Andrew Mellon, the Secretary of Treasury. I mean, when I heard that, I was like, this makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
Why they did it.
And Jimmy, I'll add to what we've been talking to the congressional staffers about is, we've seen this strange. Strange is the word I want to harp down. That larger marijuana companies, MSOs, are lobbying to destroy the hemp industry, and is this marriage similar to the alcohol days, where prohibitionists and Bible thumpers both agreed that alcohol should be illegal because the Bible people didn't want it, and the bootleggers made money off of it. And it's this weird, 100 years later analogy that we've seen, prohibitionists like the group SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, and larger MSOs, and not all MSOs, not all large marijuana companies. We have some in our group that are in favor of these products, but some of them are outright lobbying to ban cannabis. And it's strange. It's, I get that it's a monopoly is what they were trying to establish here. But you would think if they're about
said 100 years ago too.
Yeah. So this is a playbook that's happened before, and we're seeing it being replicated again for what you would think these companies want people to have access to cannabis, and that's what hemp industry has afforded, especially where I am at in Kentucky. I've heard Delta 8 be referred to as red state weed, right? When you don't have access to these products in red states, and this is a lifeline for folks that need it. Texas is a huge market. Is a huge market. So there's plenty of them like that around that. So it is a strange thing that we've seen. Some groups that have, cannabis in their name or hemp in their name that don't really represent the hemp industry, or some of these companies that are lobbying in states to, we just had a huge win this morning in Illinois. There was going to be a ban. And as of 5 a.m. in Illinois time, that bill is now dead. It died in committee. So we had a big win just a few hours ago in Illinois. But yeah, it's a strange thing we're dealing with.
Congrats on that, especially in Illinois, which, if I remember my research, Mary Miller is a representative from that state.
Yeah, and Jimmy, I left my tinfoil upstairs, or else I put my tinfoil hat on, and get full conspiracy with you, because Illinois as the state having a lot of marijuana companies headquartered there.
Yep.
Illinois as a state trying to ban hemp products. The congresswoman from Illinois being the one to pass the hemp banning amendment, again, I don't want to sound too tinfoil crazy hat here, but there's a lot of coincidences that I think should be pointed out. I'll leave it at that.
Well done, Kerry. Well spoken, and what a great talk with you in an interview. I really appreciate you taking the time. We don't think we're going to have a solution in the next 48 hours or even a week. As a talk show host and as a person who covers this industry, I appreciate the fact that there are still people out there who do understand what the purpose of this plant is. And if at some point, somebody in Congress, heaven forbid, is going to have a sick relative, and the last resort is always, well, let's try that cannabis stuff. And all of a sudden, not only do they try it, it gets rid of the X, whatever the X is. And even though the FDA doesn't want to make any claims or anything like that, that this actually, works, this is the largest experiment, not even a controlled drug trial, because we're all in it. And think about it. We're all in it. We're all different. We're all learning. It's self-medication, which freaks people out with the with the DR and the doctors of the world and all this. But we're humans. And humans are frail beings that are always looking to push the envelope, right?
Yeah. You give people enough time, they'll figure out a way to get high or get drunk. It's since the beginning of time, that's been the case. So, now we just have a lot more tools and ability to try and do it. So,
and those with experience are not being respected. That's all let's just leave it at that, because there are plenty of people out there like myself who have a long history with this product, including 10 years off which is one of the things I always tell people. I say, yeah, no, I've used it almost every day for, 48 years, but I took 10 years off. And I took 10 years off because my son was born and I didn't want to raise a child under the influence of anything at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I just, if we're, free country and, I see my American, my sunglasses from the eclipse that are American flag. I see that. I think freedom. I'm from Indianapolis. We just had the 500. All that's all about freedom.
Great race.
Right?
Great
it's
race.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. And so, but if we want to be about freedom, then this should be an aspect to it that you should have freedom of choice and freedom of access to this product in a safe, regulated, and healthy way. Hemp has been a lifeline to that. We are all on board for a sensible approach to this. But right now, especially with that Mary Miller Amendment, I'll add we're a long ways away from that becoming law. The Farm Bill in general is very unlikely to pass this year because of SNAP provisions and other things that have nothing to do with us. So if it dies by the end of this year, we'll start fresh in 2025 with a brand new Congress and a brand new Farm Bill that hopefully this amendment is dead. We as an organization are headed to DC on the 13th. We are going to meet with all members of Senate Ag as well as McConnell, Wyden, and other leaders on this issue to talk about how to defeat it on the Senate side of things. We could, go through Rules Committee in the House and potentially try to defeat that amendment on the House side of things, but it's going to be difficult to win the 200 plus votes that we need to lobby 435 members of Congress. Our organizations can't do that, so we'll focus on the Senate when we go to the 13th, and we'll again, we're confident. We're kind of licking our wounds after the Mary Miller Amendment passed. Now it's out in the light. Now it's text that we can lobby against. Now that we know just how bad this is for even industrial farmers. That THCA definition can impact the ability to grow it for grain and fiber, which is purportedly what they wanted the amendment to do. So it's poorly written. It doesn't make sense. It hurts everybody except for a few marijuana companies that are going to benefit from it. So, my last pitch for your listeners, Jimmy, would be to go to hempsupporter.com. Got an email campaign service there. That Mary Miller Amendment, we got 11,000 emails out in 24 hours. We made a lot of noise on that. 30, 40,000 social impressions within the 24 hours. The public was heard on that. It just passed on a political maneuvering process. So if your listeners want to get involved, email campaigns are great. We've got other subscriptions and resources, et cetera, in the website. So we're a long ways away from this, but this is only the start. And I appreciate you having me on, Jimmy.
We appreciate your appearance, Kerry Hinkle from the US Hemp Roundtable, and we will have more on our weekly We Talk News show that will be released next Monday on our website, our YouTube channel, and our LinkedIn page. For now, I'm Jimmy Young. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly.